Gary, when did you meet Tom? And could you please describe to us the process of writing, recording, and choosing those songs that ended up in the album?
Yes. Well, I will take it back to 1977. I was in Sammy Hagar's band, and Sammy's manager knew Boston's manager, and we got to open up the end of Boston's first tour. Of course, Boston's first tour came out in '76, and so they were still on the road, still touring for that first album, when we got to, again, be on a bunch of shows there at the end of that tour. They liked us, we liked them. It seemed like a good fit between the two bands, and so they asked us if we would like to open their entire second tour, which is what we did from 78 through 79. So we traveled all around the U.S. As the opening act for Boston. And so we spent at least 9 months with them on the road. And so that's when I got to know Tom and, of course, all the other guys in the band. And then in 1985, of course, Sammy got the call to join Van Halen, and Tom Scholz called me to ask if I would come and work on the Boston third album, Third Stage. And so, of course, I was thrilled to be able to do that. And so that's how our relationship started, that I came back to Boston to play on that record. And at that point, Tom asked me to move back to Boston and to be in the band. And I have been here ever since, 30-something years.
I read that you were always interested in music, and there were many members of your family musicians too. How is it like to live your life doing what you love, and did you ever consider doing anything else for a living?
Yes, several of my other family members either were or are musicians. Both my parents used to sing around the house a little bit, just for fun, but my grandmother played organ, and actually one of my cousins was a dancer who went on to go to Juilliard and then danced with the Alvin Ailey group, which was, of course, a famous jazz, modern dance group here in the U.S. So a lot of us had musical leanings, and my father had never told me, I want you to do this or that with your life. He just said, do whatever you want to do it the best you can, and go to school to learn how to do it. So he encouraged me to enroll in college, which I did, and in music, because he said, if you like music, great, study music, but again, go to school to learn how. So I did that, and I had a great time in college learning about music. And I tell this story to young musicians in particular because they ask that same question: how did you get into music, and what was your first break, and how did you find Sammy Hagar, and all those kind of things. But I was going to say, while I was in college, one of the other kids sitting next to me in one of my classes was Johnny Cola, who went on to play saxophone with Huey Lewis and the News. So you never know who you're going to sit next to in class. So that's always my advice for young musicians is, hey, if you love music, go to school to learn more about it. Of course, in college, you don't learn rock music. You learn, classical understanding of music and the foundations of music. And again, I had a great time doing that. What else would I have done if I didn't be a musician? I don't know. I have always enjoyed photography. My sister was a photographer and filmmaker. She was a cinematographer for the art film Koyaanisqatsi that Francis Ford Coppola had produced. So she had some recognition in that, and I always liked that as well. But that's really just a hobby of mine now. Music has obviously been my whole life, and I've been very fortunate to have been at the right place at the right time.
What is the recipe for a band to stay active and successful during the years and despite the changes?
As Andy Warhol said, we'll all get 15 minutes of fame. So for Boston to have lasted such a long time is a wonderful tribute to Tom Scholz, who writes the music, and it's his brainchild, of course, of that sound, and so I've been very fortunate to be a part of that. And of course, I could say the same thing for my previous bandmate, Sammy Hagar, that he's still around, still playing as well, and so there's both of those guys are very special performers and musicians and artists, and I've been very fortunate to work with both of them. And again, just lucky to that both those careers have lasted a long time, and very fortunate to be a part of that.
Gary, you have done so many collaborations. However, is there someone would you like to cooperate with and you haven't done it yet?
I could see, like, gee, wouldn't it be great to play guitar with the Rolling Stones or Paul McCartney, or be in the Ringo Starr All-Star Band or something like that? And that would be great. That'd be a lot of fun. That'd be a dream come true, sort of. But, again, as I hear young musicians, I said, gee, there's a lot of talent that's, just starting now. And I would like to work with some young musicians and just to understand where they're coming from. Because that's always an interesting thing about me. I like reading rock biographies. And, of course, I've read quite a few, Eric Clapton and Ray Davies and, of course, Bob Dylan, Bruce Springsteen, and because I enjoy understanding where people come from, what their background is, what influenced them, and how they got to where they are. And so, but here's, a new generation of young musicians coming up that have a completely different understanding of music today and what their influences are. So, yeah, I'd like to, although I certainly enjoy working with other projects like All 41 with Terry Brock and Matt Starr. They're more or less my contemporaries, but I'd like to work with some young musicians as well at some point.
Gary, what was your favorite period in your career?
I think my favorite period is the one yet to come. Because I don't know what's going to happen. I can look back and say, it was great working with Sammy, but even before that, I could say, well, it was great being in club bands, just local bands playing the nightclubs where we were writing our own music. And in fact, the band that I was in before I joined Sammy Hagar had Mitchell Froome as the keyboard player. Actually, he and his brother were in the band. And Mitchell has gone on to be a terrific producer, Crowded House, Los Lobos, Sheryl Crow, goes on and on. He produced a record with Paul McCartney, The Pretenders, so he's done a lot. So it was great working with him in those years as well. So even before we were famous at all, we were just kids playing at the local places and just having a good time. So I could say every part of my career has been unique and enjoyable. But as I say, I'm really looking forward to the next leg of my career. And I don't know what that'll be, but I'll bet it'll be a lot of fun.
Are there any plans for a new album with Boston or any new songs?
Tom Scholz has always got great song ideas in his head, and so I'm hoping there will be a new Boston album, because he's such a terrific songwriter and musician, and of course he's got so many fans that would love to hear a new album. So I don't know exactly when that might happen, but I'm looking forward to that. Hope that does happen.
What projects are you working on now?
Oh, right now, the project right now, yes. Well, actually, I've met a young songwriter here named Tim Barrett, who lives here in the Boston area, and I've been helping him to record some of his song ideas, because I think he's a great songwriter. And to that end, so here's the nepotism part of it. So he's, again, written a bunch of songs, and then Tommy DiCarlo, our singer with Boston, was looking for some new songs, And because Tommy has a record deal with Frontiers Records from Italy, and I put the two of them together. I said, Tommy, you should talk to this guy Tim Barrett. He's got some great songs. Maybe you'd like some of those. And so Tommy heard some of Tim's songs and did like them. And so two of Tim's songs are now on Tommy DiCarlo's album, which I think is coming out here this next January. So that's been very enjoyable to me. The other project band I did was, again, All 41 with Matt Starr and Terry Brock and Robert Berry. And so we would like to do another album for Frontiers as well. So I've been writing songs, again, with another guy that has a Boston connection, and that is Fred Sampson. Fred co-wrote the song I Need Your Love, which was on the first single for the Walk On album. Fred and I had been friends for a long time. And so he and I are getting together and writing songs that we hope will be on the next All 41 album. So it's the network goes on and on. It's sort of the 6 degrees of separation. You know, everybody seems to know somebody who knows somebody else that you know.
And Gary, could you please tell me when December People formed and which is the concept behind?
Yes. About 10 years ago, Robert Berry was asked, I believe it was by Magna Carta Records, to do a Christmas album of, traditional Christmas songs, but in the styles of classic rock bands. And so Robert is a terrific arranger, producer, songwriter, singer, guitarist, drummer, bass player. He plays everything, and he's good at all of them. And so he put together the concept of December People, where, again, he takes traditional songs but makes them sound as if some other band is playing them. So, for instance, he has a song that sounds like The Who playing, Pinball Wizard, the acoustic guitar, chang, 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 chang. But instead of Pinball Wizard, the words and the melody are joy to the world, the Lord has come. So it is the traditional holiday song that we in America grew up with. But again, it sounds like The Who, or we do Santa Claus is Coming to Town that sounds like ZZ Top is playing it. We do Up on the Rooftop that sounds like Santana. Rudolph the Red-Nosed Reindeer that sounds like AC/DC. So again, it's the traditional song as if it were done by your favorite rock band. So that was the concept that Robert had, I say, about 10 years ago. And we've enjoyed performing that here around the holidays. And when Robert told me about the idea that he wanted to perform these songs live, I said, well, that's nice. That would be a nice thing to do. And he said, but every show we do, I want to be a benefit for a local charity. And usually it's a food bank. And so we do that. So like for food banks, we'll collect food. The audience members will bring in canned food to donate them to the local food pantry to help the poor and hungry people in their own neighborhood. So I think that's a great thing for us to be able to do. I'm glad that Robert had that idea.
Oh, this is nice. And the lineup?
The lineup, yes, is, again, Robert Berry, lead vocals and bass, Dave Med, who's the keyboard player, also in the Tubes, Jack Foster, who has his own band, the Jack Foster Band, and then we've had different drummers. We've had Mike Vanderhoel from Y&T. We've had David Lauser, of course, from Sammy Hagar Band. And this year we're going to have Jimmy Keegan, who's a progressive rock drummer, played with Spock's Beard and some other bands, too. So a couple of the members have changed over time, but the core lineup is there. Robert, myself, Jack, and Dave Med.
Nice. And are there any plans for touring with December People or Boston this year?
Yes, so we're doing some shows out west. I know the first show coming up here is in Reno, Nevada at the Nugget. And I'm not sure what else they have booked, but I trust they'll have some other shows, and so looking forward to that. And again, I appreciate the fact that there are going to be charity shows that will help the hungry people in those neighborhoods.
Of course. And do you want to say something to your Greek fans?
I'm so grateful that we have Greek fans. As a member of Boston, I know we have fans all over the world, and I know people from all different countries have asked us to come and tour. I would love to tour Greece. I hope that can happen someday, but of course we never know where the booking agents will send us. But thank you so much to our Greek fans for sticking with us and for being fans and enjoying the music as much as we do.
Perfect. Gary, thank you very much. Thank you for your time.
Well, thank you, Elena. Nice to meet you, and I hope I get to meet you in person someday, either if you're in the U.S. or if I come to Greece.
I hope that too, and we would like to see you in Greece. Thank you very much. Have a nice evening.